What was the cause and what's the solution? It's in those areas where it really starts to fall apart. And Kyle Whitmire, with all due respect, how did you come up with this? I would love to know.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Another critique of some local media, but a bit more friendly. Kyle Whitmire is a local opinion columnist, and he he's like a liberal, and he's done some good. I mean, he's done some even good journalism stuff, just aside from his opinion stuff. Right, Adam?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, he's done some good work, and in fact, he's done some work in the past year or two on Alabama history that I was very appreciative of. To see like the Eufaula massacre and the populist coalition and the racist counter-revolutionary 1901 Constitution, to see that out in mainstream media in Alabama was good. Love to see it. I mean, very appreciative of that. So, I don't agree with Kyle Whitmire's politics, but he's done some good work. And what's wild to me is how you can do some of that work and clearly it's not all clicking, right? It's not all sticking with you.
Right.
Maybe that's just because I'm not one of these media guys, and so I don't know, maybe they do a story and then it literally like all leaves their brain the next week. Maybe. I don't know.
Well,
he had this new op-ed out that oof.
Yeah, well, you sent me this last week, and it's just so weird. I mean,
it's the epitome of like the failures of liberalism, the limits of liberal imagination, and I think it even exposes to some degree the critique of liberals in their supposed snobbery and condescension. I think it speaks to that too.
Yeah, well, explain to us what this. I mean, I've read the article, but you probably you have a better sense of it than I do.
Kyle has been writing a little bit about Birmingham Southern College, and that was sort of the hook for the article. It was in reference to Birmingham Southern College, and he's having this conversation with the president of the college, who brings up Henry Clay Frick and the Frick Museum. And more or less, it's an opportunity to talk about, here's a theme of today's show, the Gilded Age. It's talking about the original Gilded Age and those rail barons such as Frick and Carnegie, Mellon, J.P. Morgan, those folks. And he's talking a little bit about them. He talks about Alabama's wealth being controlled by out-of-state absentee landlords. And I thought, okay, right on. We're getting somewhere. That's true. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
He talks a little bit about in the Panic of 1907, New York bankers getting the Birmingham steel industry basically under their control. U.S. Steel and the New York bankers are able to take over the Birmingham steel industry. And there was an interesting quote. He said, "From then on, Birmingham was a satellite, taking orders from absentee owners up north. The Magic City was obliged to serve as owners in New York." Okay. All right. I'm following you. Not a lot has changed. That's a big part of our model here in this state, is that other states and other countries, capitalist interests from those places exploit and extract wealth from our state. But where it really, this just goes off the rails a little bit later. He mentions that most economic projects that have been like big time in Alabama in the recent decades have all been manufacturing jobs, which he says are better than no jobs at all, but at some point there's a limit. Okay. Again,
we're still
I'm not disagreeing necessarily. he mentions that we supply the labor and the tax breaks. Sometimes we supply the raw materials. Okay, he's really, he's getting at something here. He's talking about the extraction of Alabama wealth. The jobs we create here, though, have a limit to how high they could go. Stock options and bonuses are mostly for people who live in other states, if not other countries. In Alabama, we have made our economy subservient to absentee landlords. Boom. Hell yeah. You're right, Kyle. You're 100% correct.
Yeah, and then now I'll read this and I'll let you respond.
Okay.
But it's time to take notice of something in this state. Something our elected leadership must make a priority. We have to grow Alabama businesses into national or international companies, not just settle for the generosity of out-of-state landlords.
See, we shouldn't just settle for the generosity of out-of-state landlords. We should settle for the generosity of homegrown landlords. What if Alabama was exploiting Mississippi? What if Alabama was the headquarters of these national and international evil corporations, spreading misery across the earth? What if Alabama was home base, right?
Alabama's corporate community is pretty much the power company. Alabama's corporate community is pretty much the power company, and every state has one of those. And heck, our power company is just a subsidiary of a Georgia-based company next door. Birmingham doesn't have a Coca-Cola. Mobile doesn't have a Home Depot. Huntsville doesn't have a Delta. Alabama doesn't have a Disney. The simplest explanation for much of the poverty we have in this state is that we haven't got any rich people to live here.
By the way, he links to a Wikipedia map that shows you how many billionaires live in each state.
That's the problem with Alabama, is we don't have a billionaire within our... That's the issue.
No one with wealth to call Alabama home, he says. So you identify a real phenomena about Alabama's political economy. One of the most constant trends in Alabama's political economy. This absentee landlord aspect, the aspect of our wealth being controlled by out-of-state interests. And you get to this point, and your logical next conclusion is, well, the problem is the rich folks and the evil corporations don't live here. They don't live here. If they lived here, maybe some of this country fried wealth would trickle down, right? Maybe if they had a Southern accent, maybe if they also liked sweet tea and biscuits like we did, and maybe if just maybe their gated communities were somehow within the borders of Alabama, some of that wealth would trickle down. That's what you come up with? We need our own homegrown bourgeois?
That's wild.
We'll be better off?
And that's Scott Buttram. That's our homegrown bourgeois. They are no better. And in fact, we could even say that Scott is in some ways worse than the others, because he just, these other people, they don't, they have the sense to not be so public about their contempt for us.
Yeah.
Scott is he's just out there with it.
It's just crazy to me, because I think the homegrown capitalists that we have in this state have always existed. Mm-hmm. And they have always aligned with these out-of-state landlords and interest and multinational corporations, right? Because that has been the deal. Alabama functions much like an imperialized country, much like a colony. We function in reference to, American capital much that way, right? So just as the same as Panama has its own local capitalist elites, who, by the way, subsist mostly on their alliance with out-of-state corporations and out-of-state or out-of-country capitalists. It's the same kind of concept here. But it just blows my mind that you can identify
so well.
You can identify what's going on here. You can see it, and you can write these very well-written articles talking about the original Gilded Age in Alabama and the response of people. Interracial people power rose up against the big mules in Alabama. White people and black people in the 1800s in Alabama together fighting for a better state. And we experienced a counter-revolution here where an election was stolen, real election fraud. They stole the governor's mansion, and they imposed a racist, backwards constitution on us in 1901. And Kyle has written pretty well about that.
Mm-hmm.
And you that's the conclusion you come up with. As if you didn't learn from that. I mean, do you not see that there were local oligarchs in Alabama? It was Alabama oligarchs who imposed that constitution on us, right? It wasn't just their benefactors in New York and London. It's really wild to me. I mean, if only we had corporate headquarters here. Right. If only billionaires wanted to live here.
The problem is not, just to make it explicit, that the billionaires don't live here. The problem is billionaires.
Right.
The problem is not that oligarchs don't live in New Hope. The problem is that there are oligarchs. The problem is that there are people with that much wealth. That is the problem, that we cannot democratically save a local college that is dying. The problem is that we cannot take the value that we create to do what we want with it.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of, that's the problem. We just don't have any rich benefactors that live here. If only we had some of them, their charity, their generosity, if we kiss their ass enough, they might just find some change in the couch cushions that could fund our schools. It's wild to me. I mean, to say Alabama doesn't have a Disney. Okay, this is the same Disney that's laying off thousands of workers, right, that is, stalled in contract negotiations with the Disney World employees down in Florida, and is trying to deny them a well-earned pay raise. This is the same Disney which, while it's screwing over its workers, is, locked into this battle with their right-wing government in Florida. It's just, it just really, to me, it shows how oftentimes liberals can identify some of the problems accurately. But when it comes to the next step of, okay, well, why? Or what do we do next?
What to do,
what's the solution?
What's to be done, yeah.
What was the cause and what's the solution? It's in those areas where it really starts to fall apart. And Kyle Whitmire, with all due respect, how did you come up with this? I would love to know. I mean, genuinely, I want to know.
We still have respect for your work. If you're listening, we still have respect for your
absolutely.
work. We just think that some of your
I'm gonna keep reading, and I'll probably keep getting pissed off when I see stuff like this, because to me, if you're a conservative and you see this, doesn't this just sort of prove the point that people have told you, that the liberal media types are just snobs? They look down on you. I mean, I sense some of that condescension. If only Alabama had its own elites. Maybe if Alabama had its own elites that could then go exploit Mississippi and Georgia and Tennessee. And
that's what we need our leadership to focus on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess there is some truth to that, because, if Jeff Bezos lived in Alabama, someone would have to clean his mansions. Someone would have to wash his yachts. I'm sure he would have plenty of maids and butlers and other functionaries around him for his lifestyle of luxury. So I guess, if that's what you aspire to, if that's your vision of the better world that's possible, okay. Yeah. But to me, I thought that was an interesting contrast. The right-wing media guy, and then you have the liberal op-ed writer. And
asking for this guy to exist.
Right, yeah.
Wanting
By the
this
way,
guy to exist.
You want to know one of these guys? Jim Walter.
Yeah.
Jim Walter, there you go.
Yeah.
We had a version of that. We had Jim Walter Energies. And we see how that's turned out. Okay, so I got so frustrated seeing this. And it really, like I said, it makes me question, like, what are you learning from some of this work that you're doing that is valuable, that is, putting the story out there about the reality of Alabama and our model and our history, and to come to that conclusion blows my mind.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.